Where, well, my family is very easy because I live with my grandmother. So all my family come home on Christmas Eve. Uh, it's one of my favorite moments of the year because all the family is together without problems and just eating together. Remember the old times. Also with my little nephews that are the like the I don't know, like the inspiration to be together. You know, see kids happy. It's pretty cool, and that's it. Um, and there are many changes in my family. Everyone's getting married and all that stuff, but it's cool to have like a peaceful moment in in a day of the year. And yeah, that's it. And I can pass it to Bianca.
Thank you, Acid. That's very sweet. Yeah, like Acid, I'm gonna be with my grandma. She usually do Christmas dinner there in Christmas Eve, and then at midnight we eat all the good food. So I'm very excited about that. It's also my aunt's birthday, so they kind of do everything together. And I'm super excited that after 3 years long distance relationship, I'm finally going to be with my fiance for Christmas. So I'm excited about that. It's gonna be special, and yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm excited about it. Thank you for all the hearts. That's very sweet. I'll pass it to Tim.
Yeah, those are two sweet stories. I don't know how to go after it actually. Um, I'm based in Europe. I'm American, but I'm based in Europe, and the father of my children are Italian, and the kids are so much closer with their Italian family. So traditionally, every Christmas we go to Italy, but since I've been divorced for many years, now the kids go to Italy with Pier Stefano and hang out with the grandparents, and it's super lovely. But so most Christmas holidays, I'm alone. Last year, I went to Vegas and then did New Year's in Seattle with my best friend. This year, we just moved into a new house. So this year, I've decided to like hunker down and do some fixing ups around the house. So, and almost everyone I know is not here. Most people leave. So it's going to be a little bit very monastic, I guess. I'll be very focused on the things I guess I want to do. And for New Year's, I do have some friends who'll be back in town. So I think it's kind of a very mellow but kind of lone-ish holiday. I usually don't stay where I am because I don't like that. That's why the last few years I've been traveling. But this year I decided just to stay because there's just so much that needs to be done around the house. And I'll pass to Bear.
You, Tim. Well, for me, I just came back from Mexico. I'm now back in Canada, but I'll probably spend the Christmas with the family that I have here. That is my uncle, my aunt, a little cousin, and like their family, like from their side. And yeah, my parents. They stayed in Mexico for now. They will be coming here later. So yeah, I think it will be more of a smaller gathering, but it will be pretty nice still. Yeah, it will be nice to be with them. And it's super cold here. Right now, the temperature says that it feels like -40. So yeah, I think at least gathering with some family and having some reunion will help warm up a little bit more. And yeah, I'll pass it to Juanca.
Yeah, I will spend it with my family. I have a big family, four brothers, like three nephews, and like a lot of presents to give, and then I think after that the 24, and after the 24, there's a friend that he's like a singer, and he's making like he will make like a concert that day, the 25. So yeah, I think that's my holiday plan, and the same will go on the 31 for New Year's Eve. I don't know who's missing. Nate, did you go?
I have not. But yeah, I'm kind of hunkering down with my wife and my 8-month-old son, and our Christmas. We're not visiting my family, so it's usually entails a lot of FaceTime calls with family from all over the place. So it's a lot of fun, and 8 months is a really strange age right now for his first Christmas, but we're excited about it just because he's more interested in the wrapping paper than whatever is inside. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, outside of that, I'm just looking forward to spend some more time with my wife and son. So it'll be good. And I'll pass it back to you, Peter.
Well, super sweet. Thanks for sharing all these stories, everybody. We're our son. I have two sons. One's in a senior year at school, and the other's working in New York, and they're both coming back. And so they're coming back in the next couple of days, and then we're all going to head down to go hang out with my dad and my two sisters and all of their family. So that'll be in Northern California area. So looking forward to that. That should be really fun. Yeah, that's about it here. It's snow. I just mentioned this, but it's really starting to snow hard here in Seattle, which is kind of unusual and exciting. Okay, so there's just like a few quick updates, and then if you've got other topics that you'd like to add at the bottom of the list, please go ahead and add them in. So just to start off with just a couple things. Last week, in the last Thursday call, we just basically decided to alleviate some ambiguity around terms and making a distinction between contributors and coordinators. And I think everybody was there for that. But basically, this short version of it is contributors is anybody who contributes to the TEC, regardless of whether or not they're paid with like some type of salary, or they're compensated through praise. Can take many different forms. It's just it's a more general term. Coordinators is the coordination team. So this is just to like distinguish it so we're not confusing ourselves. We renamed the Discord channels just to clarify that. And then this meeting name, just changed it, and we got to change it in the calendar too, but calling this the TEC contributor meeting. So this is intended to be a much wider meeting, and we'll keep the topics a little bit higher level, whereas Thursday is much more in-depth and nitty-gritty. Any questions or thoughts, comments about that before we move on? Okay, this first part we're going to keep fairly quick and just like basic updates. One, also just a shout out to Tam for the awesome job she did last week for the community call, the 100th community call. Thank you, Tam. It was really sweet and just very nice, I thought. Thank you so much. And then Nate, do you want to just give we just had the first meeting call for the first interest group. Nate, do you want to just give a quick update, like how that went?
Yeah. So the first, we did it with the voting systems interest group, which is really interesting. We discussed a lot about how the meeting would be structured and exactly how we promote these interest groups, what we do in terms of when we hit capacity, what were the options in terms of moving from Discord to Zoom and things of that nature. And for the most part, we want this to be kind of an organic development for each interest group themselves to create their own rules and create their own style of approach of agenda setting. We don't want to control too much, but we also want to allow people to integrate things like the curation service and to contribute something to the larger TE field. And so one of the things that we discussed were things that we're interested in about voting systems, what we wanted to contribute to the TE field, which is a kind of a voting framework of the different types of voting and when to use them and what they're good for. And so when we look at the grand scheme of things, and Rex has his TE data coming up as well, I think that at the end of the day, we want to be able to promote these. So if you have an individual interest group that you're interested in, I would encourage everybody to participate in at least one interest group. If you want to create your own, there is a form that Bear created that we're going to use to apply for creating your own interest group that will kind of walk you through, teach you how to use the curation service so you can teach others. And that way we start to integrate this interest groups with the curation service and get people, get this place a Schelling point again. So that's basically what we covered. And yeah, I don't know if you had anything to add to that, Gideon. But
nope, just wanted to give a shout out to that, and also to note that we on the call last Thursday, Nate has stepped forward to guide. He's going to be the coordinator for the interest groups. So if people have questions or thoughts about how to shape that going forward, he's the guy. So there are other people who've expressed interest in advising on that too. So I think NT, Rex, myself, Bear. So feel free to ping Nate if you've got ideas or ideas for specific interest group, or if you just want to know more or give some advice on how those are going to unfold. We're going to be, so this is more just a heads up. On Thursday, one of the topics we're going to be talking about in the more detailed call is accountability systems. Like how are we going to handle accountability within the coordination crew, right? Like what's that going to look like, both in terms of accountability to each other, making sure that when somebody says they're going to do something, then they're going to actually do it, and other people aren't left having to do that and cover other people's work, but also more just like generally, like how do we make sure that the things that the coordination team says they're going to do, we do, and we're accountable to the community and to the commons as a whole. So that's going to be a pretty big focus for a Thursday call. Had an interesting talk with Griff last week, where he was telling me a little bit about the buddy system that they use at Gibbeth. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We're just going to explore some different options for doing this in a way that isn't just replicating kind of like power hierarchies and kind of traditional management structures. So if you're interested in that, you're welcome to join us on Thursday. And then last quick update is the partnership with the Academy is starting to pick up some steam, I should say. So basically starting in like January, February, I think what we're going to try to do is get some synergy between thinking through that partnership and how we want that to look, and some synergy between that and then also the strategic planning process that we're going to be starting then. So if there's anybody who's particularly interested in this partnership with the Academy, let me know. We can either do it here or just ping me, or just mention it in the contributors channel. But like, if there's anybody right now you're interested in this and would like to be in the advice process on it, just raise a hand maybe right now.
I'd like to participate in that, Gideon.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yeah, me as well.
Okay, great. All right. I'm going to just note that, and then okay. And of course, we'll be, like this will be something that we'll be working on for probably a while, and it will be probably a big topic in these calls. So, just because you're not like actively involved in that project doesn't mean you won't have an opportunity to weigh in and give your thoughts. Okay, so let's move on. There's really just one kind of meaty topic I wanted to talk about. It's kind of disguised as this idea of issues, but it's really getting at like how do we want to make it easy for the TEC to continue to get contributions from people who aren't just on the coordination team. Okay, so this is something that came up. There were a lot of questions about this when we were pulling the proposal together for the coordination team, and we didn't have the answers then. We had some thoughts, but now we're going to need to get into kind of more of the specific of what that's going to look like. The reason that this is important, I'm just going to frame a couple things and then outline some thoughts that Bear and I have been pulling together. I mean, obviously, the reason that this is important is that if we want the commons, if we want the TEC to grow over time, probably not going to be that easy to do that with just 5 people doing all the work part-time, right? So that's not scalable. So we've got to figure out good ways, and that's also not very DAO-like, right? So we've got to figure out good ways for there to be a coordination team that's doing a lot of the stuff we've already talked about and outlined, but like ways for other people to be able to easily come in and plug in and contribute and participate in building this commons. So this kind of is kicking off with like something that's very specific, which is this idea of issues. So this was just like a side comment that Griff made a couple of weeks ago in one of these calls. He was like, hey, it would be great to have a place where we can just like post issues that we see. We don't know what to do with them, but like a place where we can just put them someplace. Like he was thinking maybe like a doc, like a Google Doc or something like that. And what we've decided is that just to make this super easy, if you look under the coordination category in Discord, at the very top, there's a channel that's just called issues with a question mark on it. And what we're thinking is that we just want to make it very easy for people to, if you see something that needs fixing, or you have like a topic that you'd like to have raised at one of the upcoming meetings, or, any general issue, you can post it there in that channel and then mention the person who you think is most likely responsible. And if you don't know, you can tag me, Bear, and we'll find the right person. And then the idea would be that we, on the coordination team, we've got whoever that person is basically putting it into Clarity so that we can track it. And we'll just mark it with a little check just so that whoever posted the thing knows that it's actually in the system and that we're tracking it. Can be, like, for those of you who are familiar with Clarity, this might be something pretty small, like something that's pretty easy to just knock out, and that will be a task. If it's like a larger thing, then it's a project. So the projects can contain many subtasks. As I just mentioned, it's like this could also be like a way for you to add, if you've got items for an agenda, like an upcoming one of these Tuesday calls. If it's just a small thing, then just like we're doing right now, it's just like you just tag it at the end of the, if it's something that's just going to take a couple minutes, just add it into the agenda. You don't need to turn it into an issue. But if it's something that you think is going to take a while to discuss and you'd like to get some input on, then just treat it as an issue, post it up there, and tag it as like an agenda item. Say, just mention that you'd like to add it to the agenda, and then we'll put it on a call. The idea, and then I'll stop here for a sec just to kind of like make sure this is all clear. What Bear and I are talking about is like, we don't really want to have everybody have to learn Clarity. So the idea is this is like a simple way for people to interact with the system, be able to post stuff in there, and we'll be able to like pull reports and things like that. But that way we're not having to train everybody on how to use Clarity. Of course, if you want to learn Clarity, we're happy to give you some training. It's a pretty cool project, pretty cool tool, but no need for everybody to learn everything, right? So let me just stop there and see if there are any comments or questions or thoughts about just this process.
I guess my question for this is like, what do we consider an issue? Because I know we do have some things that we can say are vague, and maybe they're more like epics where we have multiple issues within that epic. And should those things be allowed within that issues channel, or do we need to be extremely specific about what issues we post in there, and not open-ended tasks, or if they're just like, hey, these are short-term specific, it has a tangible outcome, like this is something that we need to have done.
I've got some thoughts on that, Barry. You might have some too. I think that while we're figuring this out, I think it's no holds barred. Just it's more like a catch-all, so that it's easy for people to just catch things, catch problems, catch issues. What we're going to get into next is some of the constraints around this, about how we prioritize things and categorize things, but because obviously we have some real resource constraints, but I would say that for now, I don't think that people should have to worry too much about dimensionalizing it. Trying to figure out whether it's a project or something big like a milestone or season or whatever. Eric, do you have thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think for this initial state, keeping it open and see how people feel and interact with it will be good to know. And then probably after, I think it will also help. Okay, let me think. I think once we have more work done in other fronts, like the strategic planning, like all of these bigger scope initiatives that we have still to do, then I think this channel will kind of like find its real purpose. That at least the way I am seeing it is, yes, like having it more be focused on like really specific or really tangible outcomes issues, right? But maybe for this initial stage, I think that it should be fine, and just have it like a net for everyone to share anything and be able to catch it, like you said, Gideon. So yeah, I agree on that.
Any other questions or thoughts, recommendations? 5, 4, 3.
I guess my other question would be, is this going to be strictly like a bounty based, or is this going to be reward system type of compensation for these tasks?
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to get into as more of a discussion. So let's hold off on that for a sec, because that's kind of the meat of this conversation. Yeah, it's a good question. In fact, actually, why don't we let's dive into that. So I think the issue that we're going to have is, or we might have, is people posting issues in there and then us not having enough people to be able to actually cover the work. Might not be a problem, but it's very possible that it will be a problem. And this becomes even more important. Like if it's like a little one-off task, no problem. Like we can usually get those done. But if the issue that's being surfaced is something that's like really big, or actually even more difficult is if it's something that requires ongoing processes, right? Then that's something that in a world where we have kind of constrained resources in terms of people and money, then that probably is going to mean looking at all the stuff that we're doing right now and weighing whatever the new thing is against what those existing commitments are, and making some prioritization decisions about can we do the new thing? If so, can we do the new thing and still keep doing the old things? And if not, then what of the old things do we have to let go of, either by automating them or by just letting go of them, or by finding a way to have volunteers do them and have them be compensated in praise, is one thought. I think that the default assumption that we've had going into this is that, at least I shouldn't say we, I'll say I. My default assumption going into this is that it's going to be really important that we do enable this to be permissionless but coordinated, in the sense that anybody can jump in, and if they want to take on a task, they can do so. And it's just that you need like a buddy probably on the coordination team to just make sure that like we're tracking it at least. And I guess the other thing is that the thing that we know we can do today is praise. Like we know that works, and we know that that's a way of recognizing people's contributions. Whether it's going to get recognized adequately financially, I think that's an open question. But and then we've tried some bounties in various groups with mixed results, I would say. So let me just open this up just for people's thoughts on best approaches. And just specifically what I'm talking about is for projects and tasks that cannot be done within the roles of the paid coordinators. How do we do that? How do we recognize that work?
Yeah, I think it's a great conversation that we can have in here. Some of the thoughts that I've had, first in relation with praise specifically, I think this has been said probably a couple of times already, in regards with saying that praise is not much of a compensation system, but more of a kind of like recognition system, right? Because it was clear that praise wasn't enough for contributors to be like an actual income source for them to actually get paid accordingly and substantially to the work they are doing. But it was more like in recognition and in acknowledgement of the efforts. So if we take that assumption, if that's the case as well, I don't know how would that fit in with this model of trying to compensate new contributors with this type of issues. I think it would be still worthwhile trying it out and see what's the response, to be able to kind of like report it and experiment with it. Also in terms of the adjustments that the praise has had in terms of percentages for distribution, maybe that helps as well. So I'd be still curious to see that. But then another thought that I've had is that I think this is a great chance to be able to try to bring some utility to a token. So in a way, like, yes, use it to compensate people, but maybe it could be also in parallel to praise. Maybe if we define the purpose of praise being more of recognition, governance, participation in a way, but not specifically compensation, then we could have, for example, I'm thinking, and I'm still a big fan of it. I think coordinate could be an interesting way, maybe to, instead of like distribute DAI, we could distribute TEC. We could maybe take a small amount from the laser tag funds, for example, and create some type of pool with TEC tokens for these type of issues, and then they could be distributed according to the coordinate system, right? That it basically you have the ability to assign whatever amount of tokens that you think the other person's work is worth it, right? So it's kind of like in a decentralized way. It's not bounty based specifically, but I don't know. This is also just like some really initial thought. I think more thought would need to be given to this, but I feel that it could be an interesting alternative to play around with.
I'm a big fan of paying in TEC for these types of like bounties. I think that's a really good practice and gives people the option of whether they want to accumulate governance within the TEC and or compensate themselves. Either way, I think having the practice of putting it into our budget, purchasing, minting TEC, and then distributing it is a really important thing that we should be doing. I do have questions around like, if we do have these types of roles where we have these contributors coming in, do we need to have some type of onboarding process for these contributors? And do we separate these contributors from like just general volunteers who maybe like want to do a once every couple months to contribute to the TEC when they have free time, versus somebody who's like, going to be consistently looking at those issues lists and contributing as much as they possibly can in an effort to participate more. Do we distinguish between those two types of participants, and do we compensate them differently? So I think there's a lot of really good questions to be had here. I'm not sure what the solution would be. I do firmly believe that TEC tokens should be used as the method of compensation. But minting them is going to be something that we have to do within our quarterly budget or whatever it may be. So yeah, just want to throw that out there.
I love the idea of coordinate, but I have a feeling it's better suited for teams that work closely together. The two main reasons is two main what I think are disadvantages to using coordinate for this type of work is that, one, the person doing the work wouldn't know what their compensation was until afterwards, and then two, it's very subjective to the people that are deciding what the work is valued after the work has already been done. It seems a little bit unfair. I think it's a really good system for teams that work together and know each other, and then sort of at the end of a period, they can evaluate each other's work. When I think about this, I mean, the original design of using Scrum and using ZenHub in order for people to open issues and drop issues and reply to issues, all of that was very intentionally designed. And I think that doing something similar makes a lot of sense. The issues channel, there'd be like once a week or every 10 days or whatever the number is, some sort of like intake process to go through the issues and then to prioritize what ones even make sense to do. We might get something like redesign the website. The website's out of date, and that's great, but that's its own project, so that sort of goes into a different bucket. And then any pieces of work that are priority but not able to fit into the foreseeable, let's say the next sprint or 2 sprints or the next 2 weeks or 4 weeks, maybe create bounties to see if there's people with the right skill set that can pick them up. I guess the most important thing is that it's very visible for people to see what needs to be done, and that it's written in a way that is autonomous and clear and can be picked up by somebody who's involved in the TEC and maybe doesn't need to know so much context. What we've really found to be the most difficult with, or in the past, what we found at the TEC to be the most difficult was like creating these issues that anyone can come and pick up, is that you usually need enough context about the TEC to be able to execute the piece of work. So oftentimes it was somebody who's already within the TEC contributing who is better suited to do the piece of work. But we had small things, issues like translations ended up being really good pieces of work that anyone could pick up. And this was before there was a translations team. If there was a particularly good article in token engineering, we would open 1 or 2 issues to translate it into a different language. And that's a really autonomous piece of work that anyone can pick up if they want to just contribute to the TEC.
Thanks, Dan. Welcome, Haptivist. You're in a weekly meeting of the Token Engineering Commons. This is the contributors team meeting. And would you like to just introduce yourself, say hi, maybe?
Hello, everyone. Good to be here. Dropping in happenstance, so I'll just kind of try to listen and get smarter. Yep. Thanks. Bye.
Well, you're very welcome to stay, and nice to have you here. So these are all really good points. Tam, your point about context seems very tied into what Nate was talking about how do we, is there some kind of onboarding process to ensure people have that kind of context? I guess one thing that I'd love to hear some thoughts on is right now we have kind of a fixed budget in terms of number of hours that we're paying for out of the coordination team. So if we were to set up some sort of additional funds to pay for additional work, that would probably need to be something that we budgeted for, and maybe set aside a specific pool or something like that for some TBD way of distributing, whether it's like some type of coordinate thing, or whether it's bounties, or whether it's just basically trying to figure out a way to continue to boost praise. But let's just focus in on that. Does that seem like that we would need to actually set aside some dedicated funds for this?
I think, yeah, it's always good to have like additional funds, because we may end up always having things that we cannot like predict. There's always risk. There's always an attack like opportunity or something, and we always need to be prepared, and yeah, in case there needs like to be a like an emergency plan or something to act if like yeah, something is needed.
Yeah, I would say that having a kind of a monthly or bi-monthly budget of these issues where we say, hey, we have 1,000, 2,000 TEC tokens that we can distribute for extra work, and then people on the coordination team should be able to prioritize what of these issues that we have posted are the priority, and what we need to actually have fulfilled. I think would be a really good idea to say, hey, if we only have this amount and we want to compensate for these tasks, these are the priorities, and we offer that to the community to participate, and not just have it kind of open-ended where we have a ton of contributions and not sure exactly, how much money we're going to be spending on a monthly basis, based off of just open issues and needs, but based off of a budget.
Any other thoughts on this? Thoughts specifically about TEC, having it be denominated in TEC?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I think that'd be the best option to get some specific funds and a specific budget for these type of issues. I'm wondering also again, for example, if it would be possible to get those TEC tokens from the laser tag. If there's still no like real purpose for those tokens, maybe that's something that can help.
I'm for that too. I think this is a conversation that has been tossed around a little bit, and I've heard pushback, I've heard support, but I'm kind of knowing what to do with the laser tag funds is really something that we should clarify.
Yeah, I mean, there may be that, what we do is for the next proposal for the coordination team, which we'll probably be doing in February. Basically, we do some type of allocation of TEC, and maybe what we do is we work with Mitch to basically kind of split it in half and do part of it for boosting praise and part of it for some type of bounty. Like, I don't know, we gotta think a little bit more about how the bounty thing would work. But yeah, it seems like there's something here, like some fixed budgeted amount of TEC that we draw from laser tag, and so that would not be a conviction voting thing. That would probably be another type of, a different type of vote, because it would just be moving funds. It wouldn't be taking it out of the pool. Okay. There's one other thing. Do people? Oh, I know the question I had. So, Acid, maybe you could talk a little bit about the experience that comms had with using bounties. I know that there were some issues with it. Could you help us understand what was going on there?
Sure. Well, we tried to use this bounties method by using D-work. And it was good at the beginning. We had, as you remember, 5 teams: the animation one, Twitter, uh, translations, the academy, and marketing. Yeah. So, in my opinion, I think that was a very good idea and informed to do this, to do the work, and also the one of the biggest achievements I saw was that we had a lot of new people, uh, a lot of new people here in TC, especially in the translation team. I think there was like 10 new people, and everyone was going to the calls and the community calls, and that was amazing. It was a really great idea, but maybe it was not the moment. Uh, it had like a not a pretty good organization, especially with the accountability. Just a few teams up there were successful because maybe the good organization with the money. And yeah, we had some deceptions there, especially with the translations, the academy, just for some confusing stuff that we had there. But yes, the biggest problem was the organization by the leader of each team. But it was a really good idea. Uh, the bounties, more because they work give you all to do this. It's very easy to use. Um, it gives you all the tools to do it. I think the bounties are a good way to bring new people there. I remember when I was starting Web3, the bounties was the first option I have in One Hype, in Agave, and here in TEC with Chewy. Um, and yeah, if we want new people, that could be a really good option. I don't know if it's still using the work. I don't know if there's there's another platform for that, but bounties are good. It's just to have like a great leader, person really focus on that bounties section and how's people making, how's people going, especially because we're talking about bonding, so it's very important to be present, and I think that's it.
That's great. Thank you for that background asset. Yeah. Bear, do you want to mention just like, I mean, you did some experiments with setting up bounties in Clarity, and we did run it for a little while. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was just about to ask Cassie if he thinks, based on that experience and based on what we're talking here right now, and all of this coordination, if he thinks that with a little more organization and having this coordination layer beneath this bounty system, does he think he could, Asi, do you think this could work better? Do you think we could improve that system that you guys had and actually make it work?
Yes, for sure. With a special group focus on the bounties, maybe from accountability or something like that, it will work very good. But just be in touch with the person, with the people. Yeah, but it will work. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I think that's good to know, because yeah, what you were saying, Gideon, on Clarity, for example, we tried that out. I think it worked well. I feel like we probably needed a little more time to run it and to see, and probably more people, right? Because I think we only had like 1 or 2 months of operating with bounties with Anti and Rich's work. So I feel that we probably needed more time trying that out. But yeah, I think I also share what Acid's saying. I think there must be one reason why bounties are so popular in the Web3 space, right? And like Acid was saying, yeah, I agree with that. I also came here through that way. I think bounties are usually like the first touch point that you have in a lot of organizations, and they are really exciting because they you see them like as the first opportunity to be able to contribute and to meet people and to provide some value. Now, on the other hand, I do feel that you can have that like in two different ways, right? Like the people that actually want to contribute and bring value and participate in the community, and then you have the people that are probably more like bounty hunters that are just looking for to make some money, right? Not judging any of those, but I think they have like different purposes, and probably we should just have like this coordination and this structural layer really well defined. So we try to prevent, or probably not prevent, but at the end goal is to bring as much as value as we can to the TEC, right? So if we're able to do that, then the people that can bring that value can be all kinds of people, I think. And another really critical thing to this is the accountability practices, right? These ideas that we've been working on that would definitely need to be incorporated into this bounty structure. I'm also thinking with Acid's comment, we would probably need like a role, like an ongoing role of someone taking charge of these bounty section of the TEC, right? For them to be able, like the accountable, the responsible for the operations and everything, right? And really be able to uh, to keep each other accountable in that regard, but have that sense of organization and coordination with everything done. So I don't know. Yeah, I think it could work also. Yeah, I don't know if I'm thinking. I've also heard that the work has been improving a lot. So I was thinking right now maybe there's a way to incorporate that into Clarity, for Clarity being like kind of like the center for all coordination, and then the work being like the specialized platform for using bounties. I don't know, or we can do them still on Clarity. So I don't know. I think this would be more of a technical part of it, and see what's the best choice. But yeah, I'll stop talking now.
Okay, we have 5 minutes more in this call. Any other thoughts or questions about this? I have one, if not. No, so our people, sounds like people are feeling okay with this direction. I guess one question I have is, when it comes to, let's say that we had like 2,000 TC a month available for these kinds of bounties, if that's the direction we end up going. How would we decide what, is that just the coordination team who's deciding that? It's like, okay, this is what we're going to do, right? Or is that more like, I think this kind of comes to a bigger question of prioritization of work. And what I'm foreseeing is that it would be great to have this more open, this bigger call on Tuesdays be kind of for those bigger picture questions about prioritization of commons resources. So I just want, that's kind of a fuzzy thing to say, but conceptually, do people get what I'm talking about there? Like, use this call as more like high level prioritization of where we invest, and then leave the Thursday calls to be more about kind of like execution and implementation.
Yeah, 100% for me. And I just want to say that I think that once we have also this strategic planning part done, or more like on its way, I think it will be way easier to be able to realize and prioritize different issues or initiatives. Because we will have like a long term and medium term objectives that we just need to align to, right? Right now it feels like, well, how would we prioritize things? And that's still not clear. And same thing with people. Is the coordination team going to prioritize things? I think at the end, what we want to do would be to align to those objectives that we assign in the long term. And if everything in the short term is aligned to that, then we can do it. That's like that would be kind of like the filter.
Yeah, I agree with Bear on that one. Because I do think if we have articulated objectives that we have, even if it's like get more token engineers involved in the TEC community, having a certain issue each round, if you will, that's like, hey, we want somebody to do a model of this token system using CAD or whatever. I think that would be a really interesting bounty to have, and to get token engineers involved. And so I think there's a lot of things that we can do, but having those objectives that we want to align with are really important to articulate. I do think the coordination team should be responsible for curating that list of issues that need to be done that align with those objectives.
Okay, we have 2 minutes. So, any last word? Who wants the last word? Anybody? If not, we'll wrap.
Yes.
Thank you.
I just upload a tweet about showing the new advanced page. If you want to take a look, um, I will appreciate it. And yeah, and that's it. Thank you, Gideon.
Where is that asset?
I dropped the link here in the chat.
Okay. Okay. Take a look and see. All right, everybody. Thank you. Oh, last thing. Geez, I almost forgot. So I'm not going to be here next week. I'm going to be out with family. So what's the sense? Do people, would somebody else like to lead this call next week? Or should we take a break? Let's do this. If you think we should take a break, do a fire sign, and if you think we should meet next week, do like a thumbs up. Two votes for take a break. Others? Fire is take a break next week. Thumbs up is continue to meet, and we just need to find somebody to run it. Okay. Well, I'm going to take that right now as a take a break next week. Yeah, okay. Okay, there's a lot of fire and a lot of fire and thumbs up. Okay, I think that's somewhat of a consensus. All right. Okay, everybody. Have a good break. Have nice holidays, and we will. I'll see some of you on Thursday, this coming Thursday, in a few days. But the rest, see you after.
Thanks, Gideon.
Thanks,
Everyone.
Gideon.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Gideon.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Gideon.